All right, this is called Mark the Day. Mark the day that bud break happens on your calendar so that you remember the rhythm of the seasons. Taste the last frost from winter on your tongue as the morning air clears and feel the leathery wood in your fingers. Listen to the crows caw as you walk the rows, each vine different in its curves, its buds like peach fuzz, promising to become something more. Then the break begins. Little springtime ode. Actually, that was advice from my vineyard manager. This one's called Walking Downtown. Walking downtown, I overhear someone say, it's not the same anymore. I could buy my hardware across the street, buy my groceries and buy some meat, watch the farm workers go into Bar Guadalajara or Bar La Pantranca for a drink. When a restaurant was Healdsburg Cafe or the office, when only one signal stopped traffic in town, when the post office was where we met to gossip, when the Avon Theater ran Spanish films most of the week, when J.C. Penney sold clothes you could afford, or you could order direct from Montgomery Ward. A pharmacy was here too, and a music store, and so much more, and so much more. That's the old Healdsburg. I think I'll jump over here to quick short story, and then go back to poetry. This is something pretty darn new. I actually did a new revision of it after my editor, my wife, looked at it. Anyhow, this is called Softening the Fall. The bright yellow callback note was in my mailbox after lunch, and I knew it probably meant a parent call. I had not suspended anyone from class in weeks, so it had an ominous feel in my hand. What could a parent have a complaint about if grades were not issued yet, and if a kid hadn't been suspended? I was perplexed, but I knew I had to make the call during my prep period. She answered on the second ring, and her voice was soft, gauze-like. Hello? There was even a bit of hesitancy in the voice. Mrs. Dunphy, this is Mr. Hicksonbaum. I got a note to call you, and I'm wondering what I can help you with today. Well, my daughter came home yesterday with a book from your class, and I have a concern about the assignment. Well, what concern is that, Mrs. Dunphy? Well, this book, The Catcher in the Rye, has some bad words in it. I don't think it's appropriate for my daughter to read. I understand your concern, but it is considered a contemporary classic, Mrs. Dunphy. It really has a good message. And a lesson despite a few bad words in the text. I would like you to do one of two things. I'd like you to assign her an alternate text or write an essay about it, and why should she read it? I won't write an essay, but I will meet with you and explain why it's worthy. I don't want to assign a new text because it sets up a bad precedent for me, so I could have numerous alternate titles. Meet me tomorrow here at the campus and we can probably come to an agreement. I'll do that, but I'll probably have some reasons why my daughter can't read it. I'll see you tomorrow then. But when after school ends, would work for you? Sure, I answered. I thought about Catcher, about holding Caulfield and what I had gotten from the book growing up. Sure, there were a couple of bad words, but do we censor it for a couple of words used a couple of times in a couple hundred pages? I was ready for Mrs. Dunphy, and I was ready to defend the book. She had a small dark mole on her right cheek, but I didn't notice until she shook my hand and turned her head, almost shy and embarrassed. Nice to meet you, she said, pulling her hand back. I gave a quick smile. Yes, I agreed. Let's go to my faculty office as a side office where we can speak in private. I led her to the office and wondered if she would even listen. The country had become so polarized over issues, and censoring books was anathema to me as an English teacher. I'd been doing it for 20 years, and her daughter could be my daughter. Would I shield my child from literature because I was afraid to let her think for herself? Was there a single word, even two words, that would cause me to hide a book? I know this is important to you, Mrs. Dunphy, but it's also important to me. I don't select books casually, so I want us to have a very honest conversation. She looked at me with her dark brown eyes. I'm here to be a parent, and I'm an honestly concerned parent. I understand that completely. I also know that books we teach are considered part of a canon of literature that is meant to inspire people. Catcher is just one book in that canon. Well, I understand that you English teachers have your ideas, but parents like me also have ideas. We don't think curse words should be part of the canon of literature. Yes, but if you look at literature, some words weren't considered derogatory when the book was written. The Adventurous Huckleberry Finn has the N-word hundreds of times. Yes, but that was a different time. Well, so was Catcher. She pulled her hair over her shoulder. Her fingers, with pale pink nail polish painted on them, were tapping the tabletop, and I sensed she was ready to compromise in just a little way. Her nervousness was soothing to me. I just don't think I can acknowledge this book you want my daughter to read. So what titles are acceptable? I don't have a list. You need to figure that out. You're the teacher. Yes, but I'm meeting with you to get that figured out. I need to know your criteria. She looked at me deeply, almost uncomfortably. I don't have a preconceived notion of what I want. But what is it you want for Cindy, I asked. I want my daughter to read stories about the happily ever after. I want the life I dreamed. I want the chance to do it all over again. I want a life that is better. I saw a couple tears start trickling down her cheeks, cascading like little rivulets. Your life isn't real? What happened? It is, but I just don't know what to do. She looked down at the oak tabletop. Her fingers traced the edge. She stopped where her hand was near mine. I suddenly felt uncomfortable. You don't know how hard it is without a husband. Raising a couple kids is hard, and I want the best for them. I didn't realize Mr. Dunphy was no longer in your life. He was gone a long, long time ago. No worries, no remorse. She flipped her hair again. So why not let your daughter read the book? She smiled for a moment, and I looked at the pale pink lipstick she had on, and I realized I wasn't at war with her or anyone else who didn't think the way I did. There was a sadness in her face that I couldn't really place, but it was there, and a slight downward turn of her lips. I suddenly felt certain empathy for her. Was it the inevitable ruin or failure of it all? Was it her vulnerability? I had no clear idea, but she looked deeply into my eyes, and it made me feel a weakness for all the certainty I had in my life. It's been a difficult time, and I need to hold to my values. I understand that, Mrs. Dunphy. Cindy deserves to have a chance to read the book and make up her own mind. You see, the title refers to the fact that Holden wants to protect innocence by catching kids who might fall off a cliff that's at the edge of a field of rye. He wants to protect their innocence, and he wants to protect Phoebe, his little sister, from the same fate. But we can never protect innocence. It just never happens. Her eyes just started pouring. Her mascara was running like muddy little rivers down her cheeks. It was maybe one of the saddest things I've ever witnessed in a teacher conference, or maybe in life. How can I let her read this book? Won't she see I need Holden to rescue me? She gave my hand a quick squeeze and stood up. I want to thank you. For what? For softening the fall. I'm not certain that's what I did. She walked away, sobbing just a little bit, her shoulders rising and falling, and like Holden, I was ready to catch her fall. I was ready to protect innocence once again, even if it wasn't possible. Funny how being a teacher, I mean, that's complete fiction, but I did have a parent once complain about catching a rye. That's what gave me the idea for the story. So.
Did you convince her that it was okay?
I did, actually.
Good.
And I did it over the phone, which was even better. And she did actually the true part was like, she did want me to write an essay about it. And I said, I'm not writing an essay. Your kid is going to write an essay about the book, not me. What the heck? Anyhow, okay, this, I'll go into a couple of those here. I'm going to go into a couple of poems here that are kind of different. Now this one's called The Touch. There are no words on pages scrawled on walls and poets' minds that match the poem of touch. She and I discovered real poetry as her fingers, lonely skaters, filled my back like empty pages with unspoken words we both knew. Okay. So I was digging through some different ones that have kind of a love or romantic kind of thing. And sometimes my love of romantic things get a little weird.
John,
okay. Let me get it closer or something.
Or turn it up.
More. Oh yeah, that's good. Gee, there's a concept. I don't normally have a problem projecting, so
You're just into your reading.
Okay. A sailor song. A woman touched me like rain dancing on a skylight. Her hands held me like a kite on a gentle breeze. I was wishing like a whale to be wet with her love, than to be drowning like a sailor in her seas. And this was actually inspired by sitting in a local pub. Rubbing her calf. The woman from Phoenix was rubbing her calf stretched across a bar stool. Her leathery cowboy boots, tan and smooth, were sleek as a newborn calf being massaged by its mother's tongue. I could imagine her hands massaging me, moving the blood to where it needed to be.